Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about TBC Classic and whether or not they should release fresh servers with the launch of TBC Classic. Now this would not be competing with the normal preceding servers that are going to just follow up Classic and you get to continue playing your character. I find it extremely unlikely that they would ever offer servers in which you could not or force players to abandon their classic characters for TBC. So I'm not even going to worry about that in this video. We're just talking about it as an additional option, another way to play TBC Classic. And what a TBC fresh classic server would look like is just another server on the realm list that is available when TBC Classic comes out, and you're not able to make characters on it before then, and you're not allowed to transfer in to that server. So everyone will be starting fresh at level 1, and it's really just a fresh reset for the new expansion for people looking for that. So what are the pros, right? Why would you want to play on a fresh server? Well, a big one is the economy, and it's a hot buzzing question right now is like, how do we deal with the problem that is the TBC economy, considering that in Classic, there's a lot of issues with botting. There's a ton of issues with gold buying. There's a lot of people with insane amounts of gold that are preparing to go into TBC and just buy up everything. And, things are going to be crazy expensive on TBC launch. And I mean, the economy's already in a really bad, unhealthy state right now in Classic because of all of the gold buying and the botting. So kind of no matter what happens on TBC launch, if they don't offer fresh servers, I mean, the economy is just going to be in bad shape. Now, a lot of people have been talking about like rules they might enforce on characters going into TBC Classic, no matter what they do, whether they're trying to restrict how much gold you can bring into the expansion or, there's just always going to be a way for a player to get around it. Even if you are capped at 5,000 gold or 10,000 gold, players are going to just stack a bunch of materials that are valuable and go into TBC with that and then just sell them. Now, if you're thinking, okay, well, why don't we put a restriction on the materials? Well, obviously, this is just not going to be something, Blizzard is going to do because it starts getting really complex. What constitutes a material versus items that players are going to want, like their gear, their items. You obviously can't take that away. But even if you do limit just materials, even just look at an example like jewel crafting, it's just not a clean solution. The expansion comes out and you don't let people bring crafting materials into it to try and prevent these issues. And now people just can't level jewel crafting unless they go back to the starting zone and start mining at level 60 fresh out of the expansion. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So it's just not realistic to me that there's going to be a solution that is going to solve the problem of the economy unless you do fresh servers. So this is the main pro of a fresh server, is the fact that not only would it fix the economy, at least temporarily. If a bunch of botting happens right away, then you're going to get back in the same situation, but at least the launch can be healthier. But I don't see really any other way besides fresh to try and repair the economy going into TBC Classic. So that's the big pro. Now, another big reason why you might want fresh is because of the launch. Blizzard is likely going to do some sort of layering, some sort of technology for the starting zones, starting zone, Hellfire Peninsula, because there's just going to be massive amounts of people all in the same zone to start. And if you had a fresh server, you wouldn't need to do this. You'd have people spread out like they were in Classic launch, and it would, be far less people packed into one zone, more people spread out. And then even more than in Classic, there's, an extra set of zones that people are going to be questing through with the Draenei starting zone and the Blood Elf starting zone. So it would be even more spread out. So that's another argument. Now, of course, you'd miss the experience of a TBC launch if that is something that, the world PvP or everything going on right around level 60. That would be, the downside is you get to relive a kind of like a Classic launch 2.0, but you don't get to experience the TBC launch, I guess. Another thing that is a benefit of playing on a fresh server is going to be kind of like the pre-raid BIS gear acquisition, kind of the whole process. And the reason I mention this is whenever I'm talking about like classic and what people's favorite parts of the game were, it's very often brought up that pre-raid BIS gearing is people's favorite part of the game. And in fact, I'd go as far as saying, based on my experience and the experience of people I've talked to, I would wager that the most enjoyable part of the game for most people was pre-raid BIS gearing. And in TBC, if you're coming in with a bunch of gear from Naxxramas in AQ, well, that just limits some of your pre-raid BIS gearing and reduces kind of the incentive to get some of these items. Because if a lot of the pieces that you're getting from Naxxramas are just slightly worse than some of the TBC pre-raid alternatives, well, it's not really going to be worth spending a significant amount of money on a profession item. It's not really going to be worth spending all this time farming out an item that might be hard to get when you can just go with your Naxxramas alternative that maybe is around the same level or a little bit worse. So that's a concern to me that people are just going to be moving into raiding faster and kind of moving past pre-raid BIS acquisition. Now, there's still always, you still have to get attuned to these instances, but no matter what, people are going to be doing dungeons and doing heroics. I'm merely saying that there's a chance, a very significant chance that the pre-raid gearing process is going to be a lot shorter if people are coming in with gear that is, on par with some pre-raid BIS gear or a little worse. Last thing I'll mention, the last big pro of a fresh server would be that if you want to main a Blood Elf or a Draenei character, you don't feel like you're behind. Everyone is going to be starting at level 1, so if you are trying to play a Draenei or a Blood Elf, you're no different than a Dwarf or a Gnome, and you're just on the same page as everyone else. So that's helpful as well. I guess one last minor thing would be, people that are starting fresh that haven't played any classic would feel like they're on the same page. Maybe it's more of an encouragement to someone, joining the game for the first time or coming from retail and they haven't played any classic yet. That could be a factor. And then lastly, I could see the argument being made that a lot of people are going to be going into TBC with like paladin alts to farm gold, just like people farmed mages. And so if you don't offer a fresh server, people are going to be marching into TBC just over prepared. This kind of comes with the whole economy thing as well. If you don't offer fresh, the servers that are just proceeding, they're going to be completely full with players that are coming in with every material they need to level their jewel crafting right away. They're going to have the gold for their mounts. They're going to have any item from the old world they think they're going to need in TBC, any item they think that's going to go up in gold, all of their characters leveled to 60 so that they're ready to start going on their gold making alts, their alts that are going to be farming herbs, all this stuff. Just the pace of the game is going to be moving forward a lot faster, and people are optimizing everything so far in advance that, again, not to say that that's bad, but some people might want a different experience. So those are the pros of fresh. Now let's get to the cons. The first major con is going to be something that a lot of private servers that started fresh in TBC had to deal with, and that is going to be the Horde to Alliance ratio. Simply put, more people want to play Horde in TBC than Alliance, at least going based off of private servers. Often these private servers would be massively Horde focused, and it got to the point where most private servers started offering incentives to play Alliance. Like, hey, if you play Alliance, you get double XP. Oh, if you play Alliance, you are able to respec for free. Like, trying to give people reasons to play Alliance, because most private servers, people would heavily gravitate to Horde due to the really powerful racials for both PvP and PvE. Will of the Forsaken from Undead is considered like the best racial in PvP, and in PvE, Orc has the best racials. Not only stuff like axe specialization, but in TBC, Blood Fury actually gives spell power as well as attack power now. So Orcs are considered very, very strong, and just generally across the board, more people flock to Horde. Also to mention that Paladins on Horde side are going to be stronger than Paladins on Alliance side if you play as Ret, because of the Seal of Blood. And then also, the Blood Elf racials are good with Paladin as well. So in general, just a huge issue. More people like to play a Horde than Alliance in TBC. I do think the average player base is going to be less favoring Horde compared to Alliance than, for example, a private server. However, you're not necessarily going to get equal demographics that are choosing to completely re-roll and play Fresh. So major concern with Fresh right there. The second big issue with Fresh is just the logistics of things. This isn't going to be the most trivial thing to release. It is very trivial, I think, to release a server for people to start Fresh on. But what would not necessarily be trivial is, okay, how long do we block people from transferring into the server? Is it forever? Or is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? When are people able to transfer in and out of the Fresh server? What are you going to do about PvP? Is the battle group, for example, going to be only Fresh servers play against only Fresh servers? That could potentially have issues with population, or are they all going to be shared together? So stuff like that would be kind of like logistic issues that Blizzard has to deal with. Another issue is fracturing the player base. Not only is this brought up, when talking about bringing up releasing TBC versus having like classic Fresh servers, that kind of deal. But you also have the fracturing of the player base. And what this means is, like, let's say you've got a guild of 20 people and they want to play TBC. Well, all 20 of them, unless people want to re-roll to a different faction or something, they'll just be proceeding into TBC, and you can just, go on your merry way, and everyone plays TBC. If Fresh is offered, all of a sudden, maybe 5, maybe 10 people from the guild are like, well, I like the idea of a Fresh server. And that can divide guilds and be something that ends up leading to some guilds fracturing or splitting. And while I don't think that would be merit enough to on its own to prevent a TBC Fresh server, it is something that would likely happen if they did offer those servers. Now, the last thing I'll talk about, and to me this is unfortunately the biggest con of TBC Fresh, I think it would lose Blizzard a lot of money, unfortunately. If everyone hears that TBC is going to have a Fresh option, all of a sudden, no real incentive for you to resubscribe to Classic WoW and start leveling for TBC. And I think Blizzard, I've already seen more and more people leveling for TBC on Classic, and especially when it's officially announced, I think there'll be a big uptick in people leveling for TBC. And quite frankly, that's just not going to happen if you offer Fresh, right? If people know they can start Fresh from level 1 at no disadvantage, what would be the point in preparing right now for that server? So, unfortunately, I think that is the most important factor that is going to prevent Fresh Classic from being a thing. It's sad because I do really think Fresh Classic would be amazing. Fresh Classic TBC would be amazing because I think it would extend the life cycle of the server, add more content in the pre-release portion of the game, and I really do think it's the only way to try and fix the economy. But at the end of the day, it was always Fresh is an idea of something that's really a really cool idea, really exciting, but there's a lot of reasons why Blizzard would not want to do that. And so I really do not expect Blizzard to release Fresh, unfortunately. But I do think it would be a really cool idea. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think Fresh would be a good idea? Would you play on a Fresh server if it was offered? What reasons would you do that for? And then ultimately, do you think they're going to release Fresh? But leave those comments below, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.